This is TOS TV, your digital first Pan-African network. I am Adesu Suyi, and this is Africa Now. Mozambican President Filipe Nyusi on Friday appointed Major General Cristóvão Chume as commander of the army, replacing Ezekiel Isaac Malanga, who becomes inspector of the Mozambican Armed Forces. Chume had been commander of the Samora Machel Military Academy in Nampula, a position now occupied by Francisco Mataruca, who was previously deputy commander of the Higher Institute of Defense Studies. Nyusi also promoted Mataraka from the rank of brigadier to that of major general. Lieutenant Freitas Norte, previously a spokesperson for the armed forces, becomes the deputy commander of the military academy. Nyusi promoted Brigadier Cadido Jose Tirano from inspector of the Air Force to its commander, replacing Messias Andre Niposo, who becomes commander of the Mozambican Civil Service. Nyusi has not yet found the most important position, that of Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, which fell unexpectedly vacant when General Eugenio Musa died of illness in early February. The United Nations Security Council has called for the withdrawal of all foreign forces and mercenaries from Libya without further delay in an unanimously approved declaration. It also welcomed the Libyan Parliament's approval of a new unified government on Wednesday, which is set to lead the North African country to December elections. The Security Council calls on all parties to implement the ceasefire agreement in full and urges member states to respect and support the full implementation of the agreement. The statement on Friday, approved by all 15 council members, said the Security Council also calls for full compliance with the UN arms embargo by all member states, in line with the relevant Security Council resolutions. The text said, experts say the embargo has been repeatedly violated. According to the global body, about 20,000 foreign troops and mercenaries remained in Libya at the end of 2020, and no withdrawals have been observed since. Since 2015, the country has been split between the UN-recognized Government of National Accord (GNA) in Tripoli and a rival administration in the east, allied to renegade military commander KHALIFA HAFTAR. In April 2019, HAFTAR and the self-styled Libyan National Army, backed by Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and Russia, launched an offensive to try and capture Tripoli. His campaign collapsed after Turkey stepped up its military support for the GNA, with hundreds of troops and thousands of mercenaries arriving from Syria. The United States Department on Friday said Washington has decided not to lift the pause in assistance to Ethiopia for most programs in the security sector, days after U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken described acts in Tigray as ethnic cleansing. State Department spokesman Ned Prince said at a news briefing that while the United States had decided to open several kinds of assistance, including that related to global health and security, assistance for other programs and most programs in the security sector will remain paused. Blinken, in a call with the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Thursday, discussed the importance of an international investigation into reported human rights abuses in the region. The State Department said on Friday. It said that in a call, Blinken also called for enhanced regional and international efforts to help resolve the humanitarian crisis and atrocities and restore peace in Ethiopia. This is TOS TV Network, and you're watching Africa Now. Do stay tuned for more stories on Africa after the break. Welcome back. On health matters, Morocco is a step closer to legalizing the medical use of cannabis after the government ratified a draft law. But the government on Thursday upheld a ban on its recreational use, and the draft law for medical use still needs parliament approval. The move would reconvert illicit cannabis plantations into legal and durable activities that generate jobs, according to the text of the draft legalization. According to a report by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, last year, the North African country is the world's biggest producer of cannabis resin, or hashish. Morocco's production of cannabis was estimated at more than 700 tons in a 2020 study by the Global Initiative Against Transnational organized crime. Figures released by Moroccan authorities this week showed that 55,000 hectares of the land and the northern mountainous reef region were being used to illicitly grow hashish in 2019. Authorities did not give more recent estimates, but in 2018, production was estimated at 45,000 hectares. Legalizing cannabis for medical use would position Morocco in a global market that is growing at an annual rate of 30% and by 60% a year in Europe. According to Morocco's Interior Ministry, state regulation will improve farmers' living conditions and protect them from illegal drug trafficking networks, the ministry has said. Guinea's current Ebola outbreak is likely to have been sparked by a latent infection in the human population from the last outbreak rather than from the virus jumping the species barrier again, World Health Organization top emergency official Mike Ryan said on Friday. At least 18 cases of Ebola have been reported in Guinea's first resurgence of the virus since the 2013-2016 outbreak, killing thousands. Mike Ryan told a briefing that the preliminary finding based on initial genetic sequencing was remarkable because of the period of time the virus appeared to have lingered on. However, he urged further research. The outbreak is unlikely based on genetic sequencing to be linked to a fresh zoonotic reservoir and much more likely to be linked to persistence or latency of infection in a human subject, he said. We are not dealing, as far as we understand right now, with a breach of the species barrier, he urged further with the research. A second WHO official at the same briefing said it was too early to draw conclusions on the source of the outbreak. Ryan said the preliminary findings underscored the need not to stigmatize Ebola survivors and give them the follow-up and support they require. You are still watching Africa Now on TOS TV Network. Up next, business and sports. Thank you for staying tuned. In business, African economies are expected to grow by an average of 3.4% this year, the African Development Bank said. As the continent recovers from its worst contraction in half a century, the 54 economies shrank by 2.1% last year, the AFDB said in its 2021 Economic Outlook report, as the coronavirus crisis disrupted economic activity across the continent. The continent-wide projected recovery does not remove the threat of increasing poverty. An estimated 39 million Africans are likely to slip into extreme poverty as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the bank said, after 30 million were pushed into that bracket last year. The average debt-to-GDP ratio for Africa is expected to climb by 10 to 15 percentage points in the short to medium term, the AFDB report said. The worsening outcomes, will be driven by the surge in government spending and the contraction of fiscal revenues caused by the pandemic. The AFDB called on the international community to work with policymakers on the continent to help it deal with debt loads that are getting heavier and heavier. And in sports, Cape Town Stadium is activating a plan to become financially independent from the city. A major business lounge with membership package has been on the cards for some time, but it was hampered by the COVID-19 pandemic. Cape Town Stadium CEO Leslie De Rook says they lost the value of 18 million rands during the hard lockdown. There is a need to cover that through finding savings and cutting certain things off. Membership to a business lounge is up for sale. The year-long hospitality package includes exclusive access to 2,100 prime seats of the stadium and a premium hospitality space. The packages include a Western Province rugby season ticket. Packages will cost between 8,000 rand and 15,000 rand. While it will become the host of professional rugby, it will not be an exclusive rugby stadium. Premier League soccer matches, major concerts and other events will continue to be hosted. It is hoped that major events with spectators, will be allowed towards the second half of the year. Distance female runner Florence Jepkoech Chepsoi became the first athlete in Kenya to be convicted of a doping offense in a criminal court on Friday. She was sentenced to 1 year of community service after she was found guilty of presenting false documents and lying to the Kenyan anti-doping agency at a hearing. She changed her plea to guilty, having initially pleaded not guilty when she was first charged in court last year. Kenya criminalized doping offenses in 2016 in the midst of a stream of drug scandals amongst its world-renowned distance runners. The East African nation updated its anti-doping laws late last year. The Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya said more athletes would face the law for doping in the coming days. 4 other Kenyan athletes are facing criminal charges for doping offenses. And that is African Now on your digital first Pan-African News Network, TOS TV. For more updates, do visit our website at www.tostvnetwork.com. Also follow and like TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And remember to subscribe on YouTube. Do stay with us and enjoy more programs on TOS TV Network. My name is Adesuwa Osuyi. Thank you for watching.